Hey guys, how's it going? Justin here with Keystone Mountain Outdoors. So today what we're going to be talking about is newer reloaders starting out on progressive presses. So this is something that is really kind of debated online in the reloading community, whether or not it's a good idea for a newer reloader to start out on a progressive. A lot of guys will tell you that if you're a newer reloader, just start out on a single stage press. The advantages to starting out on a single stage press would be that you're going to get used to setting dies, because on a single stage press, you have to set a die, and then after you go through your operation, you change it out, go to another die, do your amount of rounds that you're loading with that die, and then move it and go forward. So you're constantly changing dies. It's also a slower process, so you're able to pay closer attention to everything. And also, a single stage press is something that's nice to have around, and they're cheaper. So guys will say, you know, it's cheaper to get into, and you'll always have it around if you ever need it in the future, which all those are very valid points. However, the big kind of drawback to a single stage press, and the reason why I personally started out on a progressive whenever I got into reloading, was because of the time, right? So on a single stage press, it takes forever to load a large quantity of ammunition. I'd say a good reloader on a single stage press, depending on how much brass you're doing, a good reloader could probably pump out, I don't know, maybe 100 rounds an hour on a single stage press if they were really moving. However, on something like a progressive press, you're talking 500 easily in an hour. It all really depends on how much primers you got loaded up in tubes and stuff. But you can really pump out rounds on a progressive press, and if you have it set up with a case feeder and maybe a bullet feeder, you could do even more rounds in an hour with these. So, you know, a progressive press is very beneficial and can be very appealing for those reasons. Now, I want to tell a little story. A good buddy of mine got into reloading, and he decided to go the traditional route. He got a single stage press. Now, fast forwarding to now, I still reload. I've got different presses over the years. This isn't the press that I started out on, but I've upgraded over the years and transitioned to different presses. And my buddy that started out on a single stage press, he doesn't really reload a lot anymore. He still shoots, but he went back to buying factory ammunition. And the main reason is because his experience with loading on a single stage, it was so time consuming that it discouraged him from reloading. And that's something that I feel isn't talked about nearly enough whenever people debate this. So, you know, people will say, and I covered it, all the advantages to a single stage press, which I agree with all of those. There's tons of advantages to starting out on a single stage press. And in a perfect world, it would be a good idea to start out on a single stage press. But a lot of guys, if they get into reloading, it's like any other hobby. If you get into it and your first experience is, oh, this is boring, or oh, this is slow, or oh, this isn't worth it, you're probably not going to stick with it. Think about it. If you go and test drive a new car and say it's some $30,000 car or whatever with a fancy engine, or whatever price, whatever you want, say it, whatever it is, if you're not impressed with it, are you going to buy it? Are you going to stick with that as your purchase decision? Probably not. So, you know, just like anything, just like relationships or anything, a first impression is very important. And, you know, if you have a bad experience or you don't like reloading on a single stage press, it'll discourage a lot of people. So that's why I think that for some people, maybe starting out with a progressive isn't a bad idea. Now, like I said, I started out on a progressive, and while it was a little bit more challenging at first, I treated it like it was a single stage press. I went through and I resized all my brass, or I went through and I resized one piece of brass. And then I would move it to the next station and not insert another piece of brass. So I would just run the one piece of brass through all the stations, almost like you would on a turret press. So it wasn't very hard for me, and I was able to pay attention like I would on a single stage press. And then after I got more comfortable, I just started using it progressively. Now, you know, the other thing is people will say buy a single stage, and then down the road, if you want to upgrade to a progressive, you can. However, a lot of people, if they invest, you know, it's going to cost you $300-400 to get into reloading with a single stage press. Maybe if you go with a Lee or something, you might be able to save a little bit more money, a Lee single stage press. But generally, you know, a rock chucker is going to cost you $370 with a kit, with some of the stuff you're going to need. So if people spend $400 and they get into it and they get a bad taste in their mouth, you really think that they're going to spend more money to reload? Maybe they will, but I'd say a good majority of those guys won't, just simply because, you know, the bad first impression and the fact that they already put out that much money and they don't really like the hobby. So it might discourage them, like I said. So in essence, that's kind of the video. And that's kind of what I was trying to make the point on. Reloading on a progressive, it's not that hard to start out on. You're basically doing the same thing as you would on a single stage press, other than maybe charging. On a single stage press, you're more likely not going to be charging on it. You're going to be charging your powder separately. But anyways, other than that, you're pretty much doing the same thing that you would on a single stage press. If you're loading pistol ammo, you're going to be sizing it and depriming it. You're going to be seating your bullet. You're going to be crimping your bullet. It's the same thing, just you're doing more stuff at once. If you want to do that, if you don't want to do that, you could treat it as a single stage press or as a turret press, where you can just go through and load one round at a time. So it's really not that hard. But again, I see the advantages to a single stage press, and I see why they're both appealing. Another big downside that we haven't talked about is the cost. It's expensive. Like the setup that I have here is well over $1,000. It's a $650 press, $300 case feeder, so that's $950. You factor in the dies, and I have some different accessories on it, which we'll talk about in a future video. But this is not a cheap press by any means. But there are definitely cheaper ways to getting into a progressive. I had a Hornady Lock and Load, which is about a $450 press. Sometimes you can find them for about $400 or so. I think I paid like $390 for mine whenever I had it. But you could get that for $390, and that's expensive, but it's not super expensive. And for loading pistol ammo, really all you need is dies, a shell plate, and components, and you're off to, and a scale, and calipers. But if that's everything, hopefully I didn't forget anything. But anyways, you don't. It's not as expensive as you would think. And Lee makes progressive presses, which are really cheap, and actually some people really like them. Gavin from Ultimate Reloader seems to be a big fan of the Lees, or I mean, he's a fan of everything. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, so there's advantages, there's pros and cons, just like anything else. I don't think that reloading on a progressive press is as bad as some people make it out to be. It's really not that hard. You just have to take time to get used to it. And again, it's not for everybody, but if you're somewhat mechanically inclined and you want to try loading on a progressive press right off the get-go, maybe you should. Maybe jump in and try it. If you don't like it, you could always resell it down the line. Yeah, you might lose some money, but hey, you got to learn. Just whatever you do, like anything, be safe, pay attention. There's so many good YouTube videos out there, and just videos in general. On Facebook, Instagram, different companies post videos. There's so many great places to learn to reload that, yeah, it can be scary, but there's so many resources out there that it's not that hard to learn. It's not going to cost you much to learn. Sit on YouTube for a couple hours, and you can learn a lot of different stuff about reloading. So, yeah, guys, that's all I got for you guys. If you guys have any questions or want to interject your opinion in the comment section, I would love to hear from you guys. Thanks for watching the video. As always, remember to train hard, shoot fast, and most importantly, be safe. God bless.